Welcome to the Network Plus Prepcast, your dedicated audio companion for mastering every objective on the CompTIA Network Plus certification exam. This series is produced by baremetalcyber.com. Wireless networks bring convenience and flexibility, but they also introduce significant security risks that wired networks typically avoid. In episode 118, titled Securing Wi-Fi Encryption Standards and Enterprise Practices, we examine how to protect wireless communication using encryption, authentication, and layered defenses. Because wireless signals travel through the air, they can be intercepted by anyone in range unless properly secured. Weak or outdated encryption leaves networks vulnerable to eavesdropping, data theft, and intrusion. On the certification exam, a strong grasp of wireless security is required to answer questions related to secure deployment, threat mitigation, and authentication methods. Encryption and authentication are the two pillars of wireless security. Encryption ensures that data traveling over the wireless medium is unreadable to unauthorized users, while authentication verifies the identity of the device or user trying to connect. Together, they protect both the integrity of the data and the network itself. In enterprise environments, compliance with regulatory frameworks often requires specific encryption protocols and centralized authentication systems. On the exam, you can expect to encounter scenarios where both encryption strength and user validation are essential components of a secure wireless setup. Wireless encryption transforms readable data into an unreadable format using mathematical algorithms and cryptographic keys. This process ensures that even if a signal is intercepted, the content remains protected. Only devices that possess the correct decryption keys can interpret the data. Encryption prevents passive attacks like packet sniffing and ensures privacy between users and the network. On the exam, you will need to understand how encryption fits into the wireless transmission process and how it defends against common threats. The earliest form of wireless encryption was wired equivalent privacy, or WEP. While it was intended to provide basic security, WEP had major flaws. It used static keys, which meant every device shared the same encryption code. It also relied on small key sizes, making it vulnerable to brute force attacks. Today, WEP is easily broken with publicly available tools, and it is no longer considered secure. The exam may include questions asking why WEP is outdated, or present scenarios where its use leads to compromise. Wi-Fi Protected Access, or WPA, was introduced to replace WEP and brought significant improvements. It introduced TKIP, the Temporal Key Integrity Protocol, which changed encryption keys frequently. This made it harder for attackers to decrypt data. WPA2 followed, replacing TKIP with AES encryption, using the CCMP protocol, which significantly enhanced security. For many years, WPA2 was the industry standard for wireless protection. Understanding how these protocols work and their differences is crucial for answering related questions on the certification exam. WPA3 is the latest major update to wireless encryption, offering further improvements over WPA2. One key feature is simultaneous authentication of equals, or SAE, which replaces the traditional pre-shared key handshake with a more secure, password-authenticated key exchange. This change makes WPA3 more resistant to brute force attacks. It also adds forward secrecy, meaning past data remains protected even if a password is later compromised. WPA3 is becoming the preferred standard, and its features are tested heavily on the exam. Pre-shared key authentication, often referred to as PSK, is widely used in home and small business networks. In this setup, all users connect to the wireless network using the same password. While easy to deploy, this method presents serious security risks. If the password is shared or leaked, any user can join the network. It also lacks accountability since all connections use the same credentials. On the exam, you should be able to identify when PSK is appropriate and when enterprise-level alternatives are required for stronger security. Enterprise wireless deployments use 802.1x authentication, which integrates with a radius server to provide individual credentials for each user. This method allows for centralized access control, detailed logging, and the ability to revoke access for specific users without affecting others. Enterprise Mode supports greater scalability and aligns with compliance requirements in sectors like finance, healthcare, and education. On the exam, expect to see 802.1x featured in scenarios involving secure corporate networks and identity-based access policies. The Extensible Authentication Protocol, or EAP, is the framework used in A02.1x environments to facilitate authentication between clients and the network. EAP supports various authentication types, including username and password combinations, digital certificates, and token-based methods. Popular EAP types include EAP-TTLS and PEAP, which use secure tunnels for credential exchange. Certification questions often ask you to distinguish between EAP methods and to choose the right one for different enterprise security requirements. Captive portals are a common solution for guest access on wireless networks. When a user connects, they are redirected to a web page where they must accept terms of service or enter credentials before accessing the internet. This technique allows administrators to isolate guest traffic from internal network resources and to apply specific usage policies. While not a form of encryption, captive portals contribute to overall security by managing access. On the exam, you may be asked about their role in public Wi-Fi settings and how they support guest segmentation. Another supplemental wireless security technique is MAC address filtering and client isolation. With MAC filtering, only devices with approved hardware addresses are allowed to connect. This method offers limited protection and is best used as part of a layered defense. Client isolation prevents wireless devices from communicating directly with each other, which is especially useful in guest environments or public hotspots. These measures do not replace encryption, but add extra layers of control. You should be able to recognize their uses and limitations in exam scenarios involving restricted access or containment. For more cyber content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Wireless Intrusion Detection Systems, or WIDS, play an important role in securing Wi-Fi networks by actively monitoring for threats. These systems scan for unauthorized access points, rogue devices, and unusual traffic patterns that may indicate an attack. When a rogue access point is detected, or a client connects to a suspicious network, WIDS can alert administrators or even take automated action through integrated wireless controllers. This detection capability is especially important in environments where wireless security must meet regulatory or industry standards. On the exam, expect to encounter questions about how WIDS helps detect and prevent wireless attacks. Two common wireless threats are rogue access points and evil twins. A rogue access point is an unauthorized device connected to the network that creates a backdoor for attackers. An evil twin is more deceptive. It mimics the SSID and appearance of a legitimate access point to lure users into connecting. Once connected, the attacker can steal credentials, monitor traffic, or perform man-in-the-middle attacks. These threats are difficult to identify without proper monitoring tools. The exam may test your understanding of how these attacks work and which tools or practices are used to defend against them. WPA3 includes a transition mode designed to support networks that contain a mix of WPA2 and WPA3 clients. This allows for smoother upgrades, but it can also introduce security risks. When transition mode is enabled, older clients using WPA2 may still rely on weaker pre-shared key authentication, which reduces the overall protection of the network. While useful during migration, this mode should be disabled once all clients support WPA3. On the exam, you may be asked about the trade-offs involved in using transition mode and when to retire legacy protocols. Client isolation is a feature commonly used in public Wi-Fi environments to improve security. It prevents connected devices from directly communicating with one another over the wireless network. This helps block local attacks such as file sharing abuse, port scanning, or malware spread between clients. While all clients can still access the internet, they are effectively placed into their own isolated environments. This is especially useful in cafes, hotels, and other shared access locations. On the exam, expect to choose client isolation when scenarios call for reducing risk in multi-user public spaces. SSID broadcast and hidden network configurations are frequently misunderstood in wireless security. Disabling SSID broadcast removes the network name from the list of visible options during a wireless scan, but this does not hide the network from advanced discovery tools. Hidden networks can still be detected and targeted by attackers using packet sniffers. Furthermore, hiding the SSID may degrade usability and delay client connections. On the exam, it's important to remember that hiding the SSID is not a valid substitute for encryption or proper access control. VLAN segmentation is a technique used to separate wireless traffic by grouping users and devices into distinct broadcast domains. Each SSID can be mapped to a different VLAN, which allows administrators to isolate guest traffic, prioritize voice over wireless, or apply unique firewall policies. This separation improves performance, enhances security, and supports compliance with data handling requirements. On the certification exam, questions may ask you to configure wireless networks for different user groups, and VLAN tagging is often part of the correct answer. Certificate-based authentication adds a strong layer of trust to enterprise wireless networks. Rather than relying on shared passwords or user-entered credentials, this method uses digital certificates issued by a trusted certificate authority. Devices present their certificate when connecting, and the network verifies its authenticity. This approach eliminates the risk of password sharing and simplifies the user experience. It's especially effective in organizations with managed devices and robust public key infrastructures. The exam may include questions on when to implement certificate-based authentication and how it improves upon traditional methods. A secure Wi-Fi deployment should always combine modern encryption protocols with layered access controls. This includes selecting WPA3 where possible, enforcing 802.1x authentication with unique user credentials, and segmenting traffic using SSIDs and VLANs, monitoring for rogue access points using WIDS, and employing features like client isolation add additional protection against evolving threats. On the exam, secure wireless deployment scenarios often require a comprehensive approach, incorporating encryption, authentication, monitoring, and access management to meet both technical and compliance goals. To conclude episode 118, wireless security is more than just choosing a password. It involves selecting the right encryption method, authenticating users properly, and defending against threats like rogue access points and client-side attacks. Modern protocols like WPA3, combined with enterprise tools such as 802.1x and Radius, provide strong foundations for protection. Supplementing these with features like VLAN segmentation, certificate-based authentication, and intrusion detection helps secure wireless environments in both public and private sectors. For the certification exam, mastering these tools and understanding how they work together is essential for success. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Network Plus Prepcast, your trusted audio guide to the CompTIA Network Plus certification. This episode was produced by baremetalcyber.com. For more cybersecurity podcasts, books, and resources, visit baremetalcyber.com. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cybersecurity Plus podcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com. And before you take the test, make sure to check out the practice questions in the book Achieve CompTIA Security Plus SY0-701 Exam Success by Dr. Jason Edwards. They cover every domain and are a powerful way to lock in your knowledge.